This Canon EF to Fuji X mount auto adapter has a built-in variable ND filter. Hey everyone, Sean here with Fotodiox.com, and today we're announcing this new lens adapter. This is our Canon EF to Fujifilm X mount Fusion ND throttle adapter. This is a lens adapter that allows you to adapt a Canon EF or EFS lens to your Fujifilm X mount camera with full electronic aperture and autofocus control, and it also has a built-in variable ND filter that goes from 2 to 8 stops of ND filtration. And this is great for shooting shallow depth of field video and long exposures in bright sunlight. Let me show you how to use it. All right, we're gonna take this Canon EF 50mm STM lens, line up the red dot on the lens with the red dot on the adapter, mount it in place. Then we're gonna take this Fujifilm X-T3, take the lens off, line up the red dot on the adapter with the red dot on the camera. There we go. Now before we turn on the camera, we're gonna hold down this calibration button that says FN on it, and we're gonna turn the camera on. And this calibrates the lens to your Fuji X mount camera, so it knows that it's a 50mm lens, and basically you just have to do this every time you switch lenses. So now we have the Canon EF lens adapted to our Fuji X mount camera, and when we hold down the trigger button, it autofocuses. Now this adapter supports half press autofocusing. It does not support continuous AF because that's just a little bit too complicated to communicate with the EF lens and the Fuji camera, but it does give you full autofocus in photo mode and in video mode with half press, but we don't recommend using autofocus in video mode just because it's not really fast enough to suit video shooting. This adapter also allows you to electronically control the aperture of your Canon EF lens. And that's great because most Canon EF lenses, unless they're like a manual cine lens, need electronic communication to control the aperture. And if your Canon EF or EFS lens has built-in image stabilization, this adapter will also power that image stabilization. Now you may ask, why would I want a lens adapter with a built-in variable ND filter when I can just put ND filters on the front of my lens? And the answer is pretty simple. It just makes it a lot easier to shoot with. If you're adapting multiple Canon EF lenses to your Fuji X mount camera and they have different front filter thread sizes, that means you either have to get multiple ND filters to mount on each Canon EF lens, or get the biggest diameter one for your biggest diameter lens and then use step down rings to adapt it to different lenses. But with this adapter, you can get rid of all that. You don't have to worry about it because the variable ND filter is built right behind the lens. And to control the amount of filtering, all you do is turn this black ring to lighten or darken the filtration. And having a variable ND filter is essential if you want to shoot shallow depth of field video. Set your lens to f2.8, wide open. Set your ISO to ISO 100, but you're shooting at 24 frames a second, which means you're gonna want to set your shutter speed to about 50. Suddenly that's way too much light coming into your camera and your image is completely blown out. Now to fix that, all you do is crank in the variable ND, and that cuts the amount of light coming through the lens and hitting the sensor. Suddenly you have beautiful cinematic shallow depth of field video. And the variable ND is great because you can adjust it, you can fine tune it. And this is even more important if you're shooting a flat picture profile, which generally requires a higher ISO. You can use this built-in variable ND to cut that light and shoot at whatever aperture your video requires. You can also shoot long exposures with this adapter. Just crank in the variable ND to cut the amount of light coming through the lens, and then use a long shutter speed, even in bright sunlight, to capture beautiful long exposures like these. Another problem you fix by having the variable ND filter behind your lens is you get rid of the black X that you would get with some wide angle lenses. If you're using a wide angle Canon EF lens, if you're adapting that and you try to put a variable ND filter on the front, odds are when you're adjusting that variable ND, you're gonna get this weird black X pattern. And that's just unusable for photos or video. But by having the variable ND behind the wide angle lens, you don't get that X pattern in any of your shots, and it completely eliminates that problem. This adapter also has a removable tripod foot, so if you want to balance the weight of a heavier Canon EF lens with your Fuji X mount camera, you can do that. And it also is Arca Swiss compatible. So if you have an Arca Swiss tripod, you can just pop this foot right into it. Our Canon EF to Fuji X-mount Fusion ND throttle also has a built-in USB port for updating the firmware in the future. So when Fotodiox comes out with future firmware updates for this adapter, all you have to do is plug in a micro USB data cable into the adapter, plug it into your computer, and then just download the new firmware to the adapter. This new adapter joins our family of ND throttle Fusion adapters. We also carry Fusion ND throttle adapters for Sony E-mount, L-mount, and Fujifilm GFX medium format. Okay, that's a quick look at our new Canon EF to Fujifilm X-mount Fusion ND throttle adapter. If you'd like to learn more about this adapter and possibly get one for yourself, click the link in the description below. And click right here to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more videos just like this one. I'm Sean with Fotodiox.com, and thanks for watching.